Hi, I'm Edda, and this is Beauty Flip, where I help ordinary people discover what is so goddamn beautiful about them and extraordinary. Today we are diving into the treacherous truth of GLP-1s and why they might be making you lose hair. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, my little phenomenal humans. So good to see you. Today we are going to actually get into more a hair question, but it actually does fit under the whole beauty flip because there is this part that is the icing on your cake, as I call it. So I have a lot of clients who have questions about GLP-1s, and it seems to be all the rage. So I thought, well, let's talk about this. GLP-1s and specifically what it does to your hair. Now, let's start off with how phenomenal GLP-1s are for so many people. We're gonna just hit this at the top so everyone gets I am not a hater, but I am going to bring in some truth about dieting and GLP-1s that is not being talked about right now because they are getting so many press points about what is so phenomenal about them. Okay, so let's hit it from the top. What is so phenomenal about GLP-1s? GLP-1s, and all the ways that they're amazing. First and foremost, let's just say it, weight loss. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. There is definite proof that if you go on a GLP-1, you're going to lose 15 to 20% of your body weight. You do that calculation, you're gonna be like, what? And they're gonna be like, yeah. Are you with me? Number two, GLP-1s dramatically cut down the noise in your head that goes on about food chatter. So instead of chatter, 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 it might be chatter, chatter, chatter. And so you definitely don't feel as hungry. You don't have cravings. You don't necessarily have any compulsive eating. You just basically don't have any noise about food. Basically, you kind of forget about food. It's kind of hijacking that sort of system in your body that talks to you about eating. Now, GLP-1s, if you know or don't know, they're actually to help control your blood sugar. What? That's why they're created. They're created for people who basically have diabetes. And so when you have diabetes, you don't have enough insulin. So this is one drug that is created for diabetes. And so in creating that, it helps control your blood sugar. So ultimately it just slows down this potential spike that you might get from eating certain things. Other things that nobody knew was going to happen was that they see major cardiovascular protection. So basically they're seeing that people on GLP-1s have less heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular problems, as well as kidney protection. They're seeing that it's helping slow down kidney failure, kidney disease protection, as well as sort of improve our livers. Yay! It helps improve sleep apnea. Yay! It lowers your blood pressure. Oh my God, my blood pressure is lowered, and also improves cholesterol. Yeah, and reduces inflammation throughout the body. And it creates, we were talking about this earlier about insulin, it improves your sort of sensitivity to insulin. Okay, let's just do a big hip hip hooray for GLP-1s. Hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. Now, can everyone get, I am not a hater on GLP-1s. I am a hater on the fact that, especially in America, we go diet fucking crazy. We go diet fucking crazy because we're actually not really living in our bodies. I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm going to tell you what I see as a hairdresser and how so many people are losing their hair because of GLP-1s and the lack of nutrition that people are getting in their body. Okay, so many of you might not even know I'm a hair loss expert. You're a hair loss expert? I thought you were like a hairdresser, coach, and a spiritual healer. You're also a hair loss expert? I am. How are you so many things? Well, I've been in the industry for a very long time, and certain things, they caught and piqued my interest, and so I began to study them. Really? You began to study them? Yes, I did. I began to study the effects of hair loss. What causes hair loss back in the early 2000s? And what I saw was that there's basic building blocks that are needed for hair, and there's basic nutrition that is needed for hair. So we're just gonna go into some very, very, very basic science because I'm not a doctor. But this is what I know, and this is what I see. So, you fabulous little human beings, each and every one of you have about 110,000 hairs on your head. Now, in that, every single day, your hair grows. In a month, your hair grows about a half an inch. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In the summer, it might grow a little bit more. In the winter, it might grow a little bit less because part of what is important for hair loss is vitamin D. We're going to get there, I promise you. Ultimately, every single one of the strands on your fabulous little head stays in somewhere, dependingly. We're just going to give you an average, around 5 years, about that. Sometimes it might be a little less, might be a little more. And then, just like when a tree begins to slow down in the fall and starts to absorb and take in the nutrition, and I want you to hear this word, when a tree needs to conserve its nutrition and it takes in everything back into sort of like its trunk and core and into its roots, the tree leaves sort of like go into a stasis. And they're not getting fed anymore. And they sort of sit there. Same thing happens with hair. There's a point in a individual hair life strand where it goes into like a stasis. And it's just sitting there. Then finally, the last stage of hair growth, if you will, or at the last stage in this process before we break out and get a new one, is that little tiny hair, just like a leaf on a tree in the fall, falls out. Whee! This might sound like a staggering number, but did you know every single day you lose about 100 hairs? Now, in this next cycle, after it falls out, your little head begins to build a new root in the follicle, and finally, a new hair begins to grow. Okay, that's how hair grows. That's it. That cycle, basically, of the new sprout is somewhere about, once it's fallen out, about 3 months. So I, as a hair loss expert, will look at people's head and we will see over the course of, like, if we see a big hair loss moment, we will begin to see maybe in 12 weeks, new hair sprout if they're doing all the things. I promise you, I am getting to the good stuff. But it is important for you to understand that concept of when, like a tree, your body does not have enough of the building blocks for building tissues, blood, muscles, organs, fat even, skin, etc. Your body basically begins to pull in its nutrition and sort of take away from the things that might not be as important. What? Yeah. Your hair might not be to your body as important as potentially providing nutrients to your organs. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now that there are two main buckets. These are not the only buckets, but 90% of the time, if I see someone with hair loss, these are the two things that are happening. The first one is being nutritionally deficient. We're gonna hit that in a minute. Yeah, we are. The second one is your endocrines, i.e. your hormones. Something is potentially at play in your hormones. When someone sits in my chair and I see hair loss and I see certain types of hair loss, and I'm not gonna get to how I look at potentially hairline or overall, I am just gonna tell you 9 times out of 10, it is a vitamin D deficiency. And right behind that one is an iron deficiency. Now, it's not specifically iron. It is a subset of iron called ferritin. Okay, so I just want to say that again. 90% of all women, because we're very specifically talking about a unnatural hair shed, these women are experiencing either nutritional deficiencies or hormonal ups or downs. We're gonna take just vitamins first, and my two top culprits, vitamin D and iron first. So when I see someone, the very first thing I tell them to do, by the way, I tell them, go get your blood work. Because if you go get your blood work, we're gonna find out what the culprit is that is causing you to lose hair. But here is the kicker. It is also causing so many other problems in your body. Did you know that 75% of all Americans are vitamin D deficient? So besides potentially causing your beautiful locks to fall out too fast and to dysregulate that whole little system of 5 to 7 years of growth sitting there for a moment where it's no longer growing, falling out, new hair sprouts out, new hair grows. And shifting that to too much hair falling out and not enough hair growing, these are other symptoms of vitamin D deficiency that I have studied and found from Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic. I'm telling you stuff that you can easily find. So ultimately, if you are vitamin D deficient, you are also fatigued. You might have bone and back pain. You might have muscle weakness, muscle aches, joint pain. You might have mood changes and deep depression. You will potentially find yourself having many infections. And as I already mentioned, hair loss. You will find that potentially when you get cut, your wounds don't heal very fast. You can also end up being like unable. I want you to hear this one because let's think about a little bit about GLP-1s, where you gain weight because you were never sated by food. And so you might be somebody who is a binge eater. And ultimately, for some people, they have actually been diagnosed, I've seen it, my own clients, with anxiety or depression because guess what? They were so low in their vitamin D that it showed symptoms of being depressed or high anxiety, that the doctors wanted to put them on anxiety meds or depression meds. Oh my gosh. And all it was vitamin D. Do you hear what I'm saying? Okay, but we're not done yet. Let's look at what happens when we are iron deficient again. Okay, so for this number, for iron deficiency, we are talking about maybe somewhere between 25 to 33% of Americans are iron deficient. And in that, here are some core signs for you. Again, about iron deficiency. Extreme fatigue. You're exhausted all the time. You feel weak. You have pale skin. You have shortness of breath. You can get dizzy and lightheaded. Your hands tend to be cold. Your feet tend to be cold. You might have insane amount of heart palpitations at times. You might have chest pain. These things might feel like heart attacks. In the category of hair, skin, and nails, your hair changes. It becomes brittle. You begin to have hair loss. You begin to have dry skin and brittle nails. You might have headaches all the time. You might have muscle cramps. You might have restless leg syndrome, especially at night, and muscle tremors. You might have joint pain. You might have unusual cravings. For example, ice, dirt, starch, and potentially might have poor appetites, because if you're anemic, you actually might feel nauseous all the time. Okay, you thought I was going to talk to you about hair loss. I am. But what I'm also talking to you about is that there is so much important information for you to know that if you start seeing your hair thin, it might be the canary in the coal mine that is telling you you are very likely dealing with a vitamin deficiency. Now, I just named 2 because those are the top 2. But there are many ways that when we are deficient in vitamins and in nutrition, we begin to experience these things. Now, most of you right now are going to do what so many of my clients are going to do when I tell them these things, and want to just like go out and buy a bottle of vitamins. Okay. Still, and I'm going to say this at least 2 more times during this podcast, get your blood work. Because first off, your body is this beautiful little bank account of all the nutrition. And if you have withdrawn too much, you adding an extra vitamin D and an iron pill every single day ain't gonna do the trick. The second thing is that in order to get this little bank account where it's full and rich with whatever you are lacking, it is best if it's done under a doctor's supervision, because they might need to give you high dosing protocols that help boost your energy, but should be always done with a doc. I'm not going to talk in this episode too much about your hormones. I did mention that hormones are potentially also at play. And this is the second reason why it is so important for you to go get your blood work, because it might not be a vitamin deficiency. It might be something larger at play. So I'm not going to go into hormones on this episode, but I will, in a later episode, touch upon how hormones play, because there is particularly things for us women and the way that our hormones play out that is important for you to know as well. I am going to discuss the importance of what happens when someone goes on GLP-1s. So let's go back to where I started. GLP-1s, they are amazing. They're doing amazing things for a lot of people. But unfortunately, because the way that they work, which is very specifically suppressing your hunger, cravings, and also making you feel potentially nauseous and sick, most people, and the way that the GLP-1 is meant to work, eat less food. Okay, that's great, except for when it's not. If you're not getting enough nutrition, your body, like a tree in the fall, is going to take in its reserves and decide what to use the nutrition that it has available to it to feed more important organs than making hair, skin, and nails. That is the very specific. There's one more way that I would like for, and every hairdresser is going to tell you this is the hardest thing to say to a client. But when someone loses weight dramatically. We see it come out the hair. We see the hair come out of the scalp in droves. It is the most massive hair shed, just falling out like almost every single time you brush it, wash it, anything, rake your fingers through, the hair comes out. That is someone who is massively losing far too much weight, far too quickly, and the hair is falling out. This is your body literally taking every ounce of what nutrition is available to it to keep your organs alive. GLP-1s, at small scale, you might be not getting enough of your nutrition. GLP-1s at a large scale could cause a massive hair shed. And we as hairdressers see this all the time. And no one is hating on you for wanting to lose weight here. No one. Not me, no one. I am, though, giving you data and information that is very important for your body's health. So in your journey, whether GLP-1s or any other weight loss, please make sure that you are getting enough of your nutrients. And if you start to see a big shift in how full your hair is, if your rubber band suddenly can go around your ponytail an extra wrap or almost maybe just a half of a wrap, you are losing hair and you should go see someone. Hair loss can be reversible if you handle it. Do not just go and get minoxidil. Do not go and buy a laser. Go get your blood work. Find out what your hair is trying to tell you. Your body is crying out, asking you for something. Now, next time we'll look at the endocrine system, because this isn't always deficiencies, but I'm telling you, 90% of the time it is. 90% of the time it is this very specific, those two vitamins, and a smattering of others. And as we continue this hair loss journey conversation, we are going to look at it all. I'm going to teach you everything that I know so that you are empowered to have actually a body that feels good and the hair that goes with that. Okay, my lovely lovelies, thanks for flipping this script. Thanks for understanding how important it is that you get the nutrients that your body needs in order to feel fabulous, not just look fabulous. I will see you all next week.
Okay, you fabulous humans. Go and get that blood work. Find out just what you might be missing and see if your luscious locks could be thicker. I'll see you next week.